One comment. That's all it took. And now the internet is demanding answers after Jose Fernandez found himself at the center of a massive WNBA controversy involving Caitlin Clark that has fans completely divided right now.
We got to be more disciplined. It's the difference in their uncontested looks from three and our contested looks from three. Sometimes we were over-rotated when we didn't need to be. Sometimes we had coverage breakdowns. Unnecessarily. We're hanging around, not going to the offensive boards, but not getting back in transition defense. We gave up a lot in transition. All correctable things. Fouling shooters, like fouling jump shooters, all detail-oriented things. And it's just an area that we got to continue to grow. We're not going to be able to outscore teams in this league.
What was supposed to be a routine basketball discussion suddenly exploded into accusations of disrespect, jealousy, agenda-driven commentary, and even calls for Fernandez to be fired after clips of his remarks about Clark started spreading across social media at insane speed. And honestly, the backlash got ugly fast. Within hours, Fever fans were flooding comment sections. Sports creators were posting outrage videos. Former players started weighing in. And hashtags demanding accountability began trending across basketball Twitter. Some viewers claim Fernandez crossed the line completely. Others believe his comments were taken wildly out of context by an internet desperate for drama surrounding Caitlin Clark. But here's where the situation gets really dangerous. According to several sports analysts now reacting to the controversy, this isn't just about one coach anymore. People are saying the Clark conversation has become so emotionally explosive that ANY criticism of her instantly turns into a league-wide firestorm. And now fans are asking a question the WNBA probably hoped would never become this public. Has the Caitlin Clark debate officially reached the point where coaches, players, and media personalities are afraid to say what they really think? Because after Fernandez's comments went viral, the reaction wasn't just disagreement. It was total chaos. Calls for apologies. Calls for suspension. Calls for firing. And according to people inside the basketball world watching this unfold, the situation may expose something much bigger happening inside the WNBA right now. To understand why the internet exploded so violently over Jose Fernandez and his comments involving Caitlin Clark, you first have to understand one thing. Caitlin Clark is no longer just a basketball player. At this point, she's become one of the most emotionally charged figures in sports culture. And honestly, that changes everything. Because the moment Clark entered the WNBA, the league stopped being only about basketball. Now every game feels connected to media narratives, fan wars, ratings debates, jealousy accusations, veteran resentment claims, race discussions, league politics, and non-stop internet outrage. That's why even small comments suddenly become massive controversies. Especially when coaches are involved. And according to people following the WNBA online right now, that emotional tension has been building for months. Ever since Clark's arrival transformed the league's visibility almost overnight. Attendance exploded. TV ratings skyrocketed. Social media engagement went insane. Indiana Fever games suddenly became national events. And while many celebrated the growth, others started openly questioning whether the league's coverage had become too focused on Clark. That tension never fully disappeared. Instead, it kept growing underneath the surface. Then came the criticism debates. Every time a player fouled Clark hard, the internet exploded. Every time a coach made tactical comments about stopping her, fans accused them of bitterness. Every time analysts criticized her defense or turnovers, social media erupted into war. That's important. Because by the time Jose Fernandez made his comments, the environment surrounding Clark was already emotionally radioactive. Then clips started spreading online. At first, many viewers didn't even hear the full context. They only saw short viral edits paired with captions claiming Fernandez had gone after Clark publicly. That's how modern sports outrage works now. A 10-second clip spreads first. Context arrives later, if it arrives at all. And because Clark already exists at the center of non-stop internet debate, people instantly assumed the worst. Then the hashtag started trending. Respect Caitlin Clark. Fire Fernandez. WNBA jealousy. League agenda. The reaction escalated unbelievably fast, especially among Fever fans already frustrated by what they view as constant disrespect toward Clark across the basketball world. And honestly, that frustration didn't appear from nowhere. Over the past year, Clark supporters have repeatedly argued. Referees allow overly physical defense against her. Media personalities minimize her impact. Veteran players resent her popularity. And parts of the basketball establishment feel uncomfortable with how much attention she receives. Whether people agree or not, those emotions are very real online. That's why this controversy exploded instantly. Because many fans interpreted Fernandez's comments through that larger emotional lens. Not as one isolated statement, but as part of a pattern. Then another layer entered the situation. Several commentators started pushing back against the outrage itself. They argued, coaches should be allowed to critique star players strategically without being attacked publicly. That created another massive divide online. One side believed Fernandez crossed the line. The other side argued the internet had become incapable of handling normal basketball criticism involving Clark. And honestly, that debate may be the real story underneath all this. Because now people inside basketball circles are starting to openly ask whether the Caitlin Clark conversation has become impossible to navigate publicly. Think about it. If coaches praise her, people say they're protecting the league's golden star. If they criticize her, people accuse them of jealousy or disrespect. That creates enormous pressure, especially inside a league already undergoing massive cultural change because of Clark's popularity explosion. Then came the media escalation. Sports YouTubers immediately jumped on the controversy. TikTok creators uploaded emotional edits. Twitter accounts reposted clips without context. Suddenly the story stopped being about basketball strategy entirely. Now it became anti-Clark agenda versus overprotective fan culture. That framing made everything much more emotional, especially after former players and commentators started weighing in publicly. Some defended Fernandez completely, arguing basketball has always involved criticism, scouting, and tactical discussion. Others argued coaches need to understand the emotional climate surrounding Clark and speak more carefully publicly because of how quickly narratives spread online. That disagreement became intense. Then another major twist happened. People started revisiting previous moments involving coaches and Clark throughout the season. Old press conferences resurfaced. Hard fouls resurfaced. Awkward interviews resurfaced. The internet essentially built a giant archive of evidence, supporting whatever side people already emotionally believed. That's another huge reason sports debates involving Clark become so explosive. Nobody argues only about the current situation anymore. Every controversy gets connected to months of previous emotional baggage. Then came the biggest emotional factor driving the outrage. Clark fans genuinely believe she changed the WNBA forever. And statistically, there's evidence supporting parts of that argument. Ratings growth, attendance spikes, merchandise sales, media attention, and ticket demand all surged around her arrival. Because of that, many supporters now view criticism of Clark almost like criticism of the league's growth itself. That's why reactions become so personal, especially online. Then another uncomfortable conversation emerged. Some analysts argued the WNBA now faces a dangerous problem. The league benefits enormously from Clark's popularity, but also risks becoming emotionally consumed by non-stop Clark-centered controversy. That observation hit hard online, because suddenly people realized almost every major WNBA debate now somehow circles back to Caitlin Clark. Reactions to Caitlin Clark. Criticism of Caitlin Clark. or defenses of Caitlin Clark. That level of attention creates pressure on everybody. Players, coaches, media, and fans. And according to people watching the Fernandez controversy spiral in real time, the situation may reveal just how impossible it's becoming for anyone in the basketball world to discuss Clark without triggering total internet chaos. The moment Jose Fernandez's comments about Caitlin Clark started circulating online, the internet exploded before most people even knew what he actually said. That's how emotionally charged the Caitlin Clark conversation has become. Within minutes, outrage clips flooded TikTok. Sports pages posted dramatic captions. YouTube creators uploaded emergency reaction videos. And Fever fans immediately assumed another coach had publicly taken a shot at Clark. The hashtag spread fast. Protect Caitlin Clark. Fire Jose Fernandez. WNBA jealousy exposed. And honestly, the backlash got intense almost immediately. Some fans claimed Fernandez sounded dismissive. Others accused him of feeding into what they believe is a growing culture of resentment toward Clark inside parts of the basketball world. But here's the craziest part. A huge percentage of people reacting online hadn't even watched the full interview yet. They only saw clipped moments. That's it. And once those clips got paired with emotionally loaded captions, the narrative was already set. That's how modern sports outrage works now. Emotion first. Context later. Maybe. Then the first major twist hit. Several basketball analysts and reporters started saying the viral clips were being taken heavily out of context. According to those commentators, Fernandez wasn't attacking Clark personally at all. Instead, they argued he was discussing game strategy, defensive adjustments, media pressure, and the realities of preparing for one of the league's biggest stars. That changed everything. Because now the internet split into two completely different realities. One side believed, this is another example of disrespect toward Clark. The other side argued, this proves people are weaponizing outrage for clicks. And honestly, both sides became vicious. Then the debate got even uglier. Several creators started accusing parts of WNBA culture of secretly resenting Clark's popularity and financial impact on the league. That conversation exploded online because it touched an emotional nerve that's already existed for months. Many Clark supporters genuinely believe some players dislike her attention, some media personalities minimize her impact, and some basketball insiders feel uncomfortable with how much the league changed after her arrival. Whether fair or unfair, those emotions are very real online. That's why Fernandez's comments became such a lightning rod. People weren't reacting only to him. They were reacting to months of accumulated frustration. Then came another twist. Old clips involving other coaches discussing Clark resurfaced immediately. The internet basically created a giant compilation of moments where coaches criticized Clark, players fouled Clark, analysts questioned Clark, or opponents discussed strategies against Clark. Fans started treating the clips like evidence of a larger pattern. That escalated the situation dramatically. Because now the conversation wasn't, did Fernandez say something wrong? Now it became, does the basketball establishment secretly resent Caitlin Clark? That question completely changed the emotional atmosphere online. Then came the media war. Some commentators defended Fernandez aggressively, arguing basketball is a competitive sport where coaches must discuss opponents honestly. Others claimed coaches need to understand the emotional climate surrounding Clark and choose their words carefully because of how massive her fanbase has become. That disagreement exploded everywhere, especially after sports creators realized Clark-related controversy generates insane engagement online. That's another huge reason these situations spiral so fast. Clark content performs at massive levels. Comments, arguments, shares, live streams, reaction videos, and fan wars The algorithm loves it. Then another shocking realization entered the conversation. Some analysts started arguing the WNBA now faces an impossible balancing act. Because on one hand, Clark's popularity helped elevate the league's visibility dramatically. But on the other hand, every controversy involving her now turns into a culture war almost instantly. That creates enormous pressure on everyone. Players, coaches, broadcasters, referees, even journalists. Then another major escalation hit social media. Several Fever fans began demanding official action against Fernandez publicly. Calls for apology videos spread. Calls for league statements spread. A few extreme accounts even demanded suspension or firing. That's when the backlash itself became controversial. Because many basketball fans outside Clark's audience started pushing back hard. They argued, criticism is part of sports. Coaches shouldn't fear discussing opponents. An online fan culture surrounding Clark was becoming dangerously overprotective. That debate became brutal, especially because it touched deeper tensions already existing inside WNBA fandom. Then came the biggest twist of all. Some reporters and commentators who actually watched the entire Fernandez interview started saying the viral outrage clips may have completely distorted the tone of what was originally said. That revelation shocked people. Because suddenly viewers realized the internet might have manufactured a massive controversy from selective editing and emotional framing. And honestly, that possibility made the situation feel much bigger than one coach. Now people started debating social media itself. How clips spread. How outrage spreads. How narratives form before facts. That conversation exploded fast. Especially after several creators admitted Clark-related drama receives far more engagement than normal basketball coverage. That's a huge factor here. The internet rewards emotional conflict. Not nuance. Not full interviews. Conflict. Then another uncomfortable realization spread online. Some basketball insiders allegedly began admitting privately that discussing Clark publicly has become extremely difficult because every comment gets dissected instantly. That observation changed the tone completely. Because suddenly people started asking, are coaches now afraid to speak honestly about Caitlin Clark? That question terrified some fans. Especially people worried the league is becoming emotionally polarized around one player. Meanwhile, Clark herself reportedly remained calm publicly through the chaos. No dramatic response. No emotional social media posts. No direct attack on Fernandez. That silence actually made the internet even louder. Because now fans started projecting their own emotions onto the situation harder than ever. And according to people watching the controversy spiral in real time, the biggest problem may no longer be what Jose Fernandez actually said. It may be the fact that ANY conversation involving Caitlin Clark now instantly turns into full-scale internet warfare before the truth even has time to catch up. After the Jose Fernandez controversy exploded online, the situation surrounding Caitlin Clark stopped feeling like a normal sports debate. Now it felt like a full-scale culture war happening inside the WNBA in real time. And honestly, that's when things got really ugly. Because suddenly, every side of the basketball world started picking teams publicly. Former players weighed in. Analysts jumped into the debate. YouTube channels posted hour-long breakdowns. TikTok creators uploaded emotional edits painting Clark as either unfairly targeted or unfairly protected. There was almost no middle ground anymore. That's how intense the situation became. Then came the next major escalation. Several sports commentators started arguing the outrage surrounding Jose Fernandez proved something much bigger than one controversial interview clip. According to them, the WNBA has entered a completely different media era because of Clark's popularity. An era where every quote becomes content. Every foul becomes controversy. Every criticism becomes political. And every coach suddenly risks becoming a villain online. That observation spread fast. especially after people noticed how quickly the internet turned Fernandez into a trending target before most fans even watched the full interview. Then another twist hit social media. Several creators began posting side-by-side comparisons showing how differently Clark-related stories spread compared to other WNBA coverage. The numbers were insane. Clark debates generated dramatically higher engagement, more comments, more outrage, more reaction videos, and more national attention than almost any other league topic. That revelation changed the conversation completely. Because now critics started accusing media companies and creators of intentionally amplifying Clark controversy for clicks and money. And honestly, a lot of people believed it. Especially after sports pages started posting increasingly emotional captions surrounding the Fernandez situation. Disrespect. Anti-Clark agenda. League exposed. Those phrases spread everywhere. That emotional framing made the situation feel far more explosive than the original basketball discussion itself. Then came another shocking reveal. Several reporters who reviewed the full Fernandez comments publicly stated the viral outrage clips left out key context surrounding strategy, defensive planning, and broader basketball discussion. That revelation split the internet even harder. One side responded, "Context doesn't matter. The tone was disrespectful." The other side argued, "This proves outrage culture is destroying sports conversations." That debate became massive online, especially among longtime basketball fans frustrated by what they see as non-stop manufactured drama surrounding Clark. Then another emotional layer entered the situation. Some WNBA supporters started worrying the league itself was becoming emotionally trapped by Clark discourse. Because suddenly everything in women's basketball seemed to revolve around reactions to Clark, criticism of Clark, defenses of Clark, or outrage involving Clark. That observation hit hard. Especially after people realized many actual basketball stories were getting completely overshadowed by social media wars. Then came the most uncomfortable twist yet. Several analysts openly questioned whether coaches and players now feel pressured to speak differently publicly because of Clark's massive fan base. That conversation shocked people. Because if true, it would mean the WNBA's media environment has fundamentally changed. Think about it. If a coach criticizes Clark, internet outrage explodes. If a player fouls Clark hard, national debate explodes. If analysts discuss weaknesses in her game, social media attacks explode. That level of attention creates pressure nobody in the league previously dealt with at this scale. Then another strange thing happened. Even people who defended Fernandez started admitting something important. The reaction itself proves how powerful Caitlin Clark's influence has become. That realization changed the tone of the debate again. Because suddenly critics and supporters both agreed on one thing. Clark now sits at the emotional center of the WNBA universe whether people like it or not. That's why every controversy involving her feels so massive. Then another shocking trend emerged. Old clips of Clark being criticized throughout her career resurfaced everywhere. College rivalries, hard fouls, dismissive interviews, media debates, coaching comments. Fans began building giant, timeline threads, arguing the Fernandez controversy was just the latest example of long-term resentment toward Clark's popularity and success. That narrative spread incredibly fast, especially among Fever fans already frustrated by months of physical play and criticism directed toward Clark. Meanwhile, opponents of that narrative argued something completely different. That Clark fans interpret normal basketball competition as personal attacks because of emotional overinvestment. That debate became vicious. And honestly, it exposed a deeper truth about sports culture today. Fans no longer just support teams. They defend identities. That's why Clark debates become so emotionally explosive. To some people, criticizing Clark feels like criticizing the future of women's basketball, league growth, and the fans who helped elevate the WNBA's visibility. To others, the non-stop protection surrounding Clark feels unfair to veteran players and coaches who built the league long before she arrived. That emotional collision creates constant tension. Then came the biggest reveal of all. Several media analysts argued the Fernandez controversy proved the WNBA has officially crossed into mainstream sports culture territory. Meaning, non-stop hot takes, outrage cycles, personality wars, clip manipulation, fan tribalism, and viral controversy are now permanently part of the league's media ecosystem. That observation terrified some longtime fans. Because while Clark's popularity brought incredible visibility, it also brought the chaos of modern sports media with it. And according to people inside basketball circles watching the Fernandez situation spiral out of control, the real issue may no longer be what one coach said about Caitlin Clark. The real issue may be whether the WNBA can survive becoming emotionally consumed by non-stop internet outrage surrounding its biggest star. The reaction to the Jose Fernandez controversy became absolute chaos across the basketball world. Within hours, Caitlin Clark fans, WNBA supporters, analysts, former players, and sports creators were all fighting online like the league had split into completely different realities overnight. And honestly, the arguments got personal fast. TikTok creators uploaded emotional edits accusing Jose Fernandez of disrespecting Clark publicly. Twitter threads claimed the comments exposed deeper resentment toward Clark's popularity inside the basketball world. Meanwhile, sports commentators on YouTube argued the outrage itself proved modern sports culture has become addicted to manufactured controversy. That divide exploded everywhere. One side screamed, "Clark gets targeted constantly." The other side argued, "Every criticism isn't an attack." And once those two narratives collided, the internet completely lost control. Then came the former player reactions. Some defended Fernandez, arguing coaches must be able to discuss opponents honestly without fear of becoming social media villains overnight. Others warned that people inside basketball need to understand how emotionally charged Clark-related discussions have become publicly. That disagreement became intense because it touched a deeper tension already growing across the WNBA. The Clark effect. At this point, many people believe Clark has transformed the league permanently. Ratings, attendance, media coverage, merchandise, national attention, and ticket demand all exploded around her arrival. Because of that, some fans now interpret criticism of Clark almost like criticism of the league's growth itself. That's why reactions become so emotional, especially online. Then the out-of-context clip debate exploded. Several basketball analysts publicly argued the viral clips circulating around Fernandez omitted important context and exaggerated the emotional tone of the original comments. That revelation made the internet even angrier. One side responded, "The full clip still sounded disrespectful." The other side argued, "This proves social media manipulates outrage for engagement." That debate became one of the biggest sports discussions online for hours. Especially because people increasingly distrust how viral narratives form now. Then another huge reaction shift happened. Some longtime WNBA fans started expressing concern that Clark-centered controversy is beginning to overshadow actual basketball conversations completely. That observation spread fast. Because suddenly people realized, almost every major WNBA debate now somehow circles back to Clark criticism, Clark protection, Clark media attention, or reactions to Clark fans. That level of focus changes the emotional atmosphere around the entire league. Then came the media backlash. Several commentators accused sports pages and creators of intentionally farming engagement through outrage-heavy Clark content. And honestly, the evidence felt hard to ignore. Titles became more dramatic. Clips became shorter. Captions became more emotional. Everything surrounding Clark seemed designed to trigger arguments instantly. That's because Clark controversy performs unbelievably well online. Every debate generates millions of views, Massive comments, non-stop reposts, and hours of reaction content. The algorithm loves conflict. Then another emotional divide appeared. Some fans argued Clark supporters have become too defensive and interpret ordinary basketball criticism as personal attacks constantly. Others responded. People said the same thing about protecting superstar athletes in every sport. That comparison spread quickly, especially after commentators compared Clark's media environment to early LeBron James coverage, Stephen Curry media debates, and even controversies involving young stars entering established leagues historically. That framing made the Fernandez situation feel much larger than one comment. Now it looked like part of a bigger transition period inside women's basketball itself. Then came another shocking realization. Even people criticizing Clark fans admitted something important. No other WNBA player currently drives emotional engagement at this level. That truth became impossible to ignore. Because one coach's comments turning into a national sports debate within hours revealed just how powerful Clark's influence has become. Then another major industry conversation started. Some analysts openly questioned whether coaches and players may eventually begin avoiding honest public basketball analysis altogether because of fear surrounding social media backlash. That idea worried a lot of people. Because sports depends on debate, criticism, strategy discussion, and emotional competition. If everyone becomes afraid of internet outrage, the media environment changes completely. Meanwhile, Clark herself reportedly stayed calm publicly throughout the controversy. No emotional outburst. No angry posts. No public war with Fernandez. Ironically, that silence made the internet even louder. Because now fans projected their emotions onto the situation harder than ever. And according to many people watching the controversy spiral online, the biggest takeaway may not be what Jose Fernandez originally said. It may be the fact that the WNBA has officially entered a new era where any comment involving Caitlin Clark can instantly trigger league-wide internet warfare. Just when people thought the Jose Fernandez controversy was finally calming down, another realization changed the conversation completely. Because now the internet isn't only debating whether Jose Fernandez was disrespectful toward Caitlin Clark anymore. People are asking something much bigger. Has the WNBA officially entered an era where Caitlin Clark is simply too powerful as a media figure for normal basketball conversations to exist anymore? And honestly, that question terrified a lot of people watching this situation unfold. Think about what actually happened. One interview clip spreads online. Within hours, outrage explodes. Hashtags trend. Firing demands appear. Fan wars erupt. Media personalities jump in. And the entire basketball world becomes emotionally divided again. That escalation happened before most people even watched the full comments. That's the scary part. Because according to several analysts now discussing the controversy, the internet no longer waits to understand stories involving Clark. It reacts emotionally first. Then maybe asks questions later. That pattern changes everything. Especially inside professional sports. Then came another disturbing twist. Several commentators started openly comparing Clark-related media culture to celebrity fandom rather than traditional basketball coverage. That observation spread fast online. Because honestly, the similarities are becoming impossible to ignore. Think about it. Fan armies, emotional protection, viral clip wars, outrage campaigns, conspiracy theories, and non-stop social media battles. That's no longer normal sports discussion. That's stan culture. And according to some longtime basketball analysts, the WNBA may not be fully prepared for what that transformation means long-term. Then another shocking realization hit social media. Even many people defending Fernandez admitted they now feel nervous criticizing Clark publicly because of how aggressively internet backlash escalates. That changed the emotional atmosphere completely. Because suddenly the conversation wasn't, was Fernandez wrong? Now it became, are people inside basketball starting to self-censor around Caitlin Clark discussions? That question exploded everywhere, especially after creators began compiling clips of coaches and analysts carefully choosing words whenever Clark's name came up publicly. The internet immediately noticed it. And honestly, that may be the biggest reveal of this entire controversy. Not whether Fernandez crossed the line, but whether the Clark conversation itself has become almost impossible to navigate honestly anymore. Then another emotional layer entered the debate. Some WNBA fans started worrying the league risks becoming emotionally dependent on Clark-centered controversy for engagement. That observation hit hard online, because the numbers don't lie. Clark stories dominate headlines, ratings, views, reactions, and sports discourse constantly. And while that visibility helps the league grow enormously, it also creates emotional imbalance, especially when every major conversation somehow becomes connected to Clark. Then another strange trend appeared. Even people who initially supported the outrage started questioning whether social media intentionally manipulated the Fernandez situation through selective clips and emotional captions. That realization spread quickly, especially after longer interview footage began circulating online. Some viewers admitted, the viral version sounded way worse than the full context. That moment changed everything, because now people started debating not only Fernandez, but the entire machine of modern sports outrage itself. How clips spread, how narratives form, how creators monetize emotional conflict. That conversation became huge online, especially among longtime sports fans exhausted by non-stop outrage cycles. Then came the biggest twist of all. Several media analysts argued the Fernandez controversy proves the WNBA has officially crossed into a completely different level of mainstream relevance. Meaning, the league now experiences the same chaos that surrounds the NBA, major celebrity culture, political discourse, and viral internet ecosystems. That includes tribal fan wars, clip manipulation, rage engagement, algorithm-driven outrage, and emotional polarization. According to some insiders, there's no going backward from that now. And honestly, that may be both the league's greatest opportunity and its biggest danger at the exact same time. Because Clark's popularity brought attention, ratings, sponsorships, national visibility, and historic growth. But it also brought the internet's obsession with conflict. Now every quote becomes controversy. Every foul becomes discourse. Every coach becomes a potential villain. And according to people watching the Fernandez situation spiral across sports media in real time, the scariest part may be this. If one interview clip caused this much chaos, what happens the next time a player, coach, or analyst says something even more controversial involving Caitlin Clark during the middle of a heated WNBA season? And honestly, after everything that happened with Jose Fernandez and the reaction surrounding Caitlin Clark, it feels like the WNBA has officially entered a completely different era. Because this stopped being just about one coach's comments really fast. Now people are debating media manipulation, fan culture, league politics, selective clips, outrage farming, and whether anyone can even criticize Clark publicly anymore without the internet exploding. And honestly, that's a huge shift for women's basketball, especially when one viral clip can suddenly turn into firing demands, #wars, league-wide arguments, and non-stop sports media chaos overnight. So now I want to know what you think. Do you believe Jose Fernandez crossed the line with his comments? Or do you think social media completely exaggerated the controversy using out-of-context clips and emotional captions? And here's the big question. Has Caitlin Clark become so important to the WNBA's popularity that criticism involving her now instantly becomes impossible to discuss fairly online? Or are fans simply protecting the biggest star the league has had in years? Drop your honest thoughts down in the comments because the basketball world is completely divided over this right now. And if you made it this far, hit the like button and subscribe because this WNBA season is already turning into absolute chaos. Every game, every foul, every press conference, every comment is becoming a viral debate within minutes. And if more reactions, interviews, or behind-the-scenes details connected to this controversy surface, you already know we'll break down every twist, every argument, and every shocking development right here.